Hey there, Hawks fans, and welcome to episode 3 of the Hawks Postflight Report. I'm your host, Will Jackson, joined again by Hawks head coach Josh Lovelady. Coach, how does it feel to be 3-0 on the season?
Feels good.
Fantastic. The Hawks come into their bye week following a 33-0 victory over the Archer Tigers last Friday in what was a wet and windy affair. The Hawks pitched their first shutout defensive performance since last year's 56-0 victory at Mountain View and looked absolutely dominant. For starters, Coach, what was the feeling like for the guys heading into the game, with it being the first time not on a national stage this season?
Well, I think our guys, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, every field, whether it's Mercedes, whether it's Norcross or Archer, it's the same dimensions. And that's why we try to talk about is going like block out the noise, right? Worry about what's going on the field, and control what we can control. So I think that wasn't a big deal, not being on national TV, whatever it is. But I think the bigger deal was the opportunity to get better and to go 3-0. So that was the main focus of the night.
So there wasn't any mindset of it's not a national stage. No, not everybody's going to see if we mess up. So we can be a little bit more relaxed. Do you feel like everybody was still just as focused and as all in as they usually are?
Yeah, I think they are. They're kids too, so who knows what I can, 27 years experience, sometimes I can gauge the room wrong, but for the most part, I think their preparation was very good. I think they ended up, from our senior leaderships and our upper class and leadership, they realized looking from games 1, 2, now to 3, there's some things we need to fix. And they were very driven on doing that. So I think that kind of media stuff, it's cool, it's nice, but that's for grandma to watch, not for us in the field.
Now, like you mentioned just a moment ago, you said that there were things that you need to fix. Overall, would you say that this was your best performance of the season? And if so, why? Or which performance so far would you say has been your best?
I don't know if there's really one aspect of it, if we put it all together. I think when you look at the side of the defense, going from Walton to Archer, we ended up now, I think we're 7 quarters in a row. After the first quarter at Norcross, we did three quarters, second, third, and fourth at Norcross. We shut them out, as well as Archer. So it was good to see the defense starting to gel and starting to figure out who we are, what as coaches, what we have on the players, and what to the players trusting the coaches as far as the alignment, assignments, all those kind of things. So defensively, I think was the biggest gain of the night, being able to take a pretty high-powered offense, less than 100 yards. Offense, we kind of, now that when we saw that the defense was so dominant, we kind of sat back a little bit, I'll be honest with you, and didn't take as many, weren't as aggressive. We didn't change our identity so much, but we did say, okay, it's a wet night. All right, let's not make any mistakes and give them anything. Let's make them earn it. And so we were just patient and with our drives.
Now, did you go into this game just expecting it to be as wet and rainy as it was, or do you feel like you had to alter your game plan a little bit just because some of the guys may not have had as much experience playing in those kind of conditions?
Great question. Well, both times it caught us by surprise, because Wednesday we did. Everything looked great, and Wednesday we got banged, so we did not get to go work offense. Tuesday did not get to work offense on Tuesday, so we had to make up a little bit of time on Wednesday. So we missed a day of offensive instruction and coaching. And then Friday looked like the cells were gone. I looked at my radar, and you can probably see because I looked like a wet dog at the end of the night because my rain jacket was up in the locker room at Archer High School, but not on the sideline because I didn't think it was supposed to be there. So it caught us a little bit off surprise. I did tell the guys be prepared mentally because you don't know. I mean, it's these pop-ups. So I think our guys adjusted and did a good job.
Now, just as far as the offense goes, we saw that Hayden and the running backs such as Cam Robinson were able to still be effective and not have any turnovers. Do you feel like they were just prepared more or just expected it, or do you feel like they responded well just to the water?
Well, and knock on wood on the turnovers because you never know, but we do a turnover circuit every week, and it's part of our preparation of working on, how to secure a ball. Large times also in practice over the last preseason, although here we would go out in the rain. I said, all right, this is a great opportunity. Let's, rather than having huddle to run there, let's take the gloves off or whatever you want to do. Try catching the ball with gloves, without glove, whatever it may be, because this may be preparing us for a situation. So I think us having a few practices preseason and even going to the season allowed us to have a rainy practice on our turf. Said, okay, we weren't so shocked by the rain.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you feel like getting this game experience early on in the season is going to be really good preparation for, say, later on in the season and when it's cold and rainy, or do you feel like this was a good opportunity for you guys?
Yeah, I think it was a great opportunity. Anytime you get any opportunity to learn, whether it's in the classroom or on the field, it's great. Not only was the weather an obstacle to say, okay, it's a lot better in non-region to figure out how we can respond compared to in the playoff situation, because you're done. If you don't respond well, you're done. So we'll be able to pull from this moment and say, hey, this is what we did at Archer. All right, this is if we have bad weather again, this was our plan. Let's kind of go back to it, all right, and figure out who we are. But I think overall, every week you just try to use every opportunity to get better in this non-region. Whether it's Archer being a really heavy throwing team to a balanced team or a running team, so just every opportunity to get better.
Now, I do have one concern I wanted to ask you about. I've noticed, in particular, just helping with the stats, that there's been a relatively high amount of penalties. Are you concerned about penalties going forward, or do you feel like that's just going to be something that we can improve on as the season progresses?
Yeah, that's one of my points of emphasis today in our meeting today. Is there's certain penalties that are controllable. Mental, jumping off sides. All right, watching whether it's defensively or offensively, knowing the snap count. All right, is there some things that are penalties that that's our style of play? Pass interference, when you play man coverage or you're locked up, you're gonna have to take the chances of playing. Hey, you're gonna have some chances where you have pass interference because we're gonna be aggressive. Same thing as far as offense. If you're going to run the football and you're going to be very physical up front, you may have to have a few holding penalties. It's part of the game. But within there, is it necessary? Are you doing the right things? The personal fouls, no. That's something that we can control, and I think we can get better at. So it's a concern that it's a phase in our play that we need to improve on. Is there going to be penalties probably in every game? Yes. But I think if you look for the first two games compared to this last one, I think we had 10 and 11 penalties first two games. I think we had 6 this last week. So we're going the right direction.
Right.
All right. So I mean, are you ever going to be? Hopefully, you're perfect in the penalty department, but it is part of the game.
Right. And it obviously, like you said, is trending in the right direction. Just obviously, you said there were 6, which is correct. It went 11, 10, 6. So obviously, hopefully, that'll be a continued improvement. Now, you mentioned the running game, and I wanted to ask you about that as well. Do you feel like players such as Cam Robinson, because he had another 100-yard performance this last week, do you feel like he's progressing well as a replacement for Donovan Drury, just with how we've seen that he's such a physical runner?
Yeah, I think he is. He's progressing well. He's physical, but he also has great vision. He can take an outside run and cut it back into A gap, which is inside. He also has good hands in the backfield. You've seen him a couple of weeks in a row that he'll catch a ball out there on a swing pass. Probably the best highlight, and you won't have it on a highlight, this week was his blocking. Whenever he was blocking for another, either the quarterback on pass protection or in a running play, speed sweep, whatever it is. It was awesome to watch how physical he was with the ball not in his hand, right, as far as him blocking in the perimeter. So I think he's getting better every week. I think we also got to start figuring out by committee. You got Kevin Mitchell, you got some other young players that I think could roll in there and keep him fresh in the fourth quarter too.
Do you feel like he's progressing well enough that you'd be comfortable saying that he could be the lead horse, I guess, heading out the stretch?
Well, right now he's a starter. He's a starter, and he's proved it. And he's held on to it, by having good ball security, and as well as doing all the things that we ask running back to do. Run inside, run outside, pass protect, run block. If you do all those things and do it well and protect the ball, I think you've got a great opportunity to be the 1A option. Now, we've got some guys that are very talented that could be the 1B, 1C that can roll in there too, and we don't skip a beat. And that's what we're wanting to develop, is some depth of that running back where he can have not so much wear and tear on his tires, so to speak.
Would you say that overall the strength of the offense through this season has been the running game, or would you say it's more been of a pass-happy team so far?
I think the ability to be able to spread the ball out is there's been times in the Mill Creek history when I've been here, it's kind of like, golly, if we had that kind of guy outside, we could be throwing them all night long. Or if we had a quarterback that could get the ball to that guy, or if we had a running back that could hit the hole, we could do there. I think you've got those over the last 19 years at Mill Creek where you have those situations. This team has got a good balance. You've got receivers on the outside that can either take a short route and a 1-yard catch and turn it into 12, or it can take the top off of things. All right, or you can go and say, hey, okay, let's read the defense. Just take advantage of what they give you. If they're going to play coverage on those guys out there, give it to Cameron or give it to one of our running backs inside and be in that. And I think it starts with our quarterback play, being able to read it and say, okay, what's our numbers look like? Give them the keys to the car and say, hey, here you go. Here's the keys. Don't go wreck it. All right, just go drive it and have a good time. And he does. And I think when Hayden does that, and with all the tools around him, we can be very successful on offense and balanced.
So it kind of goes back to what you mentioned in the first episode about playing extremely situational games just based off the opponents.
And then this last week, like I said, was situational. Hey, we probably could have thrown more, all right, but why? When we could run the ball, all right, control, going on a 15-play or 12-play, drive, and keep the ball away from them, all right, and play field position a little bit. We flipped the field a few times. We were scoring points and not having to throw out there with a wet ball or getting situations. Now, did we throw the ball? Yes. We had, I don't know, you probably know the stats, quite a few, a couple hundred or whatever it was of throwing the ball, but we weren't forcing the issue. In doubt with the weather conditions, say, let's just see if we can run the ball.
What's your biggest focus as far as preaching to the team just what to expect and what to do as you head into this bye week, as you prepare for Cedar Grove? Do you feel like it's going to be more rest and just keeping the team fresh, or do you feel like it's going to be just trying to work on those fundamentals a little bit more?
That's a great question. I think it's a mixture of things. All right, it's a little mixture of rest. All right, we've been 3 games. We got 3 big, hard games ahead of us. Some great competition, but I do think we need to develop some depth. All right, meaning some of those guys that we haven't had the opportunity to say, okay, you've now had 3 games. We've seen a little glimpse of what you can do. Now let's take these 3 days to really start elevating that depth as far as offense, defense, special teams. And I think the last thing is work on the fundamentals. Clean up. What is it that we need to do better? Let's take pause and let's worry about Mill Creek. Not worry about the opponent like we normally do every week. It's like, what about Cedar Grove? What about whoever we're playing? Now it's kind of like, okay, let's look at our stats. Let's look at our tendencies. Let's look at what do we feel like in the first 3 weeks we can fix and do better. And let's apply that in practice.
And then just one last side thought. Are you more comfortable about, as far as the injuries go so far? I feel like we mentioned it in the first episode where we saw a lot of cramping issues in the first game. Do you feel like the players are getting more comfortable with the higher amount of reps that they're taking and it's kind of showing that they're not as injury prone? Not necessarily injury prone, but do you feel like the team's stamina is a little bit better than what it was in the first episode?
I think, yes, I do. I think we're getting into playing shape, all right, if that makes sense. I also think that as coaches, we're controlling the reps a little better. We're doing a better job on our end as far as saying, okay, rather than having, certain players in there for 100 snaps, they need to be his threshold. Find the law of the lid. Find where the cap is on certain players. Of going like, hey, this is where we see that, hey, he's shutting down with his body, shutting down with cramps, or we're seeing that he doesn't have the speed or fatigue, whatever it may be. So we as coaches are finding that out. I think also players are figuring out, hey, you know what, even tired, I can give, even the fourth quarter, I still got some juice in me, whatever it is. So it's a little balance in that. So I think of a little bit of a mixture of both as far as getting in shape, playing shape, adjusting reps on our end, getting more people involved as role players, rolling in at different positions to give us more depth. Allows us to be fresher and ready for it. I think we're also getting used to the humidity on the Friday nights as far as that length of a game.
All right. Well, there's Coach Lovelady's thoughts on the 3rd game of the season versus Archer. We'll see you guys back here next week as we preview Cedar Grove and beyond. For now, I'm Will Jackson. Thank you so much for watching the Hawks Post-Flight Report, and have a great afternoon.